Welcome to the Ike's Inspirations podcast. Today I have a great friend. His name is Jordan Perry, and Jordan and I go way back. We've known each other since high school. We went to St. Sebastian's, and I appreciate him because when I was young, he always looked out for me. I think when I was a little person, man, he was kind of like my mentor, and he always looked out for me. And now he's doing a lot of big things. He's a finance expert, and he's a creator of SimpMe. So Jordan, can you please do us a favor and introduce yourself and give us like a brief summary of who you are and your life story?
Thank you, Ike, man. Thank you, man, for the kind words. Like I said, we go way back, my brother. I really appreciate you. Like I said, we have some really great memories, fond memories from St. Sebastian's. And like I said, I'm honored to be a part of this. I'm honored to speak on your podcast. I love all your episodes. I love all the work you're doing. So thank you for having me. Just to give everybody background on myself, my name is Jordan Perry. I'm from Randolph, Massachusetts. I attended St. Sebastian's School with Ike, which is where we learned a lot, grew a lot. After St. Sebastian's, I was fortunate enough to attend Villanova University, where I studied finance and I also studied entrepreneurship. While I was at Villanova, I also had a passion for financial literacy, which is where I started my business that I run today called SimpMe. What SimpMe does is we use analogies to break down financial concepts and to make business and finance simple, more digestible, etc. I've been working on SimpMe since then. Worked in financial services as an intern in Boston, which is where I was able to really hone in on my passion for financial literacy, understanding mutual funds, stocks, bonds, etc. And from that experience, I was able to further pour into my community and teach people through the SimpMe platform about these topics. I worked at that financial services company for about 4.5 years after I graduated from Villanova. And then I ended up going back to business school at NYU Stern, which is where I got my MBA. I was an MBA for 2 years in our full-time program. And during my time there, I had the opportunity to intern at a couple startups. I was working for a company called Bowie Health with one of my mentors. It's a great health tech company based out of Boston. I worked there, and I also ended up working at Splunk Technologies as a product manager doing cloud security. It's a data monitoring company. So I worked there as an intern in business school, and then I worked there full-time after business school. I graduated in May of 2022, worked there for about a year, and since leaving Splunk, I've been working on SimpMe full-time, and this is my story, how I got to where I am today.
Yeah, man, I love everything that you're doing with SimpMe. I think it's so needed. I think the need to increase financial literacy in the community is essential. And I'm very curious, Jordan, to learn why you're so passionate about providing financial education. You know, why is that like something that you are dedicating full time to doing on a daily basis?
Thanks, man. No, honestly, for me, Ike, I think financial literacy all comes down to exposure, right? So luckily for me, like I have a wonderful family. My parents have been extremely supportive. I have a little sister, extremely supportive. And ever since I was younger, my parents have always instilled into us the importance of saving and investing in yourself, education, obviously, but financially, understanding to pay yourself first. I have an uncle, may he rest in peace, who was a beacon of financial literacy in our family, my Uncle Charles. And he would always talk to different people in our family about financial literacy. My mom learned that. My grandmothers, my grandfathers really poured into my parents about the importance of investing. They had humble beginnings, but they always would say it's important to invest in yourself. So for me, I was exposed to that. And then I ended up taking it to a different level because I see individuals around me, whether they were friends and stuff from school, when we were at St. Sebastian's and hearing about what other people did, or people in my family. I have cousins and stuff who work in finance, who have done different things, who were teaching me, talking to me about this stuff. So I essentially saw it from some family aspects. I saw it in the environment around me in school and education. So that when I was like going to college, I said, hey, I want to learn more about finance. Regardless, I was like, if I end up working in finance, cool, because I like it and I like numbers and I can do well with it. But if I decide to go to another industry, I at least know more about finance and how to do personal finance and to be smart with my money. Mm-hmm. So that's essentially what sparked my interest in it. But then around me, right, in college, I was talking to individuals that didn't understand some of these concepts. So I was like, hey, maybe I can make these topics more relatable to people using analogies, trying to dispel some of these myths that is too hard to understand in these topics, and just connecting it to things that resonated well with people. So that's what makes me passionate about it.
Yeah. And there is an underlying need for financial literacy and education because, as you may know, they didn't teach us this in St. Sebastian's. They don't teach us this in high school in general. We don't really learn about finances. And then most households aren't just talking about like, hey, how much money are you making or what are you doing to save your money? So people are kind of grow up in the, not really knowing about it. I went to college and kind of like you, I was fortunate to have a family or background where they taught me good financial habits and like, not maxing out your credit card and, saving your money and whatnot. And so for me, that was kind of obvious and I'm still trying to learn more about it. But I've met a lot of people in college who just maxed out their credit cards, had no problem with it, didn't even know the consequences of maxing out their credit card until it started hitting them later in life and they couldn't get real estate or they can't get any loans or they're trying to start a business and they're screwed, So I feel like what you're doing is very valuable, hence why you started SimpMe. I'm a big fan of SimpMe. And one thing is, I think SimpMe stands for, I would think simple, right? Like, are you trying to make finance simple? So how is SimpMe doing that? How is SimpMe making financial education simple? Because I know for a lot of people, finances can get boring, especially if you're not like a number person. You could kind of just get too much. So how do you plan on using your platform to make SimpMe as easy and as digestible for people?
That's a great question, Ike. You're spot on with it, man. So for us, we're all about making complex simple and connecting it to things that resonate well with individuals, right? So what we do is we publish a lot of content across a variety of different channels. We publish content across LinkedIn. We publish content across our Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We're on every single platform as a way to really explain a lot of these topics. We use video. We use pictures. We use different mediums in terms of meeting people where they are and breaking these concepts down. What started off was me making analogies that were written based off of sports. So I would take a concept like, let's say, a portfolio of investments and then essentially explain how portfolio managers are picking stocks, bonds, ETFs, and different things in their portfolio to enhance returns for their investors. In a similar light, a sports team like the Celtics is drafting players every year that they think can essentially enhance the value of the team and allow them to win championships. That's the similar parallel that I would draw. And we would do this via videos, or I would write a blog, or I'd write a topic that would be published to my website, and then I would disseminate that information across all my platforms for people to learn. So content is obviously key. Content is, and we invest a lot into good content to engage people in certain ways. We also are meeting people in other ways through ebooks. Right. So when people come in, they check out our content, they then have the opportunity to then opt in and purchase an ebook. Ebooks where we talk about building generational wealth and the importance of that, how you maximize your financial future with investment accounts. Those are ebooks and stuff that people can opt into. Within that as well, though, we also have other resources, whether it's a budgeting tracker and a template that we've created with our own proprietary information to teach people, or emergency fund tracker, where individuals are able to leverage these tools and resources to live financially fit lifestyles. So within that whole ecosystem, we have all these different tentacles and ways that we're getting people in there to spark their interest through the content, to then double down on it by using some of our resources. Most recently, and we could talk more about this, probably you have another question about this, we have a mentorship program.
Okay.
6-week mentorship program where we're teaching individuals about financial literacy topics and empowering them to be more well-equipped to ask the right questions when they come across professionals or anybody that may come their way telling them what to do with money. I think a lot of times people end up getting taken advantage of, unfortunately. Whether they're normal individuals, we see it in sports, we see athletes that get taken advantage of, anybody. A lot of people get taken advantage of. There's a lot of weird things that go on out here. But at SimpMe, we're all about empowerment. We're all about making complex simple and really giving people the tools that they need to thrive in this environment. And it starts with education. It's not a get-rich-quick thing. Mm-hmm. These are the principles that we're teaching people that our hope is that we're changing lives and people are able to live financially fit lifestyles for the long term. So then we pass this knowledge down. And I've seen it. I know people who've done it. I've watched people who've done it very methodically.
Yeah.
You're very consistent, and you know how to budget, and you know how to save, you know how to invest, and you follow a really strict plan. Or not a strict plan, but you stay within your lane and your goals. You can live a good lifestyle.
Yeah. And essentially, it sounds like a lot of finance, it kind of comes up to anything. It's like a huge part of it is being disciplined, knowing when to spend money, knowing when not to spend money, knowing when to save money, and knowing what to invest to and invest in consistently. Because sometimes people can have investment strategies, but then they're going here and there and there. And before you know it, it's kind of useless because you have your buck in so many blends, you know? So one thing I'm curious to hear from your perspective, Jordan, that I would love to learn about is, you went from working a full-time job, where you had stable income and you kind of knew what you were going into. And now you mentioned that you work for SimpMe, full-time. That's like your full passion. Like you're just going 100. You're betting on yourself, which I love to hear, and I'm sure that transition must have had some difficulties. Can you talk about what are some of those difficulties and how are you overcoming it, or what are you doing to make sure that you can stay consistent and persistent?
Mm-hmm. So I think for me, Ike, like the beauty of it is that I've been fortunate enough to have a good support system around me.
Okay.
And people understand like kind of what I'm going for and what I want to do. Right. So it all traces back to financial literacy and being kind of like, trying to be smarter with your money. There's things that I didn't do that I could have, indulged in and bought this and bought that at certain times, that if I didn't have certain nest eggs and like funds that I had in terms of giving me runway, I wouldn't be able to take an opportunity to invest in myself to do this. Mm-hmm. So that all comes down to financial literacy. When you do have an opportunity, you want to seize that moment, right? You don't really get these moments that often.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I was blessed and fortunate to kind of have that mindset when I decided that I wanted to do this. I would also say that the way that I have, created this business is that I don't, you can fine tune your models and your business models in a certain way where you know how you can actually generate income, right? So for me, like a lot of people will look at business and tech and they look at certain things and they will think immediately, I have a business, so I have to go raise capital. Yeah. I have this, so I have to do this. And they invest all this time and money into a model that may be broken. One thing that I've learned from business school and from my experiences working in different organizations is that from day one, you can build a model that is sustainable, that gives you money and revenue in the door and properly. So for me, I've really just been studying different business models to know from day one, if I'm going to do this, I take calculated risk.
Yeah.
But I take calculated risk. But what is going to give me the highest likelihood of being an optimal outcome that allows me to be able to do what I need to do? And to me, that was having the foundational business framework and guardrails around what I'm building that is sustainable. So you kind of can like lean into it a little bit more as opposed to things that are ideas. Mm-hmm. Ideas. Like if you're trying to build out, I have a friend that's building a company that requires a ton of upfront capital, a ton of venture capital, like money. You need that in order to even bring your product to market. What we offer at SimpMe is a little bit different because we're offering services, and we have things that we're working on as well with like tech-enabled software. But like that's like down the, that's kind of in the works. But at the end of the day, is like when you build services that make sense and they're able to deliver high value, right? Your model is sustainable in a different way than maybe something that requires a lot of upfront. So I know you asked about difficulties, but that's kind of how I've navigated, kind of understanding how my model is built to know that I can maybe like have the highest likelihood of, getting over certain humps.
Yeah, man. The thing I love about your business is essentially it's like you're serving the people. You know what I'm saying? And one of my favorite quotes is from Martin Luther King, and it's like anybody can be great because anybody can serve. And I feel like what you're doing is really powerful because you're taking the time to serve people. There's a lot of people out there who lack the financial education or aren't willing to go about learning what they need in order to empower themselves. So, I'm so happy to see that you're doing this. What I wanted to follow up with you on is, because I feel like a key component to what you're doing in SimpMe is building trust. You have to get the trust of people to want to, enroll in your program or your mentorship or essentially SimpMe, and you're kind of playing the role of a financial expert and a financial advisor. And I know there's been, like you said, there's been a lot of issues of trust with financial people. I've heard all types of stories in the NBA where people have gotten done dirty with their money, or essentially the financial advisors are scamming them and taking the money and not really doing anything with their capital. How do you build that trust so that people don't go into your company being like, yo, this is a scam, or like, oh man, another online course or whatever? Like, how do you get people to be like, yo, I want to be a part of this, like, and trust that you're really helping them?
Well, I mean, you make a lot of good points, man. I'm definitely not a financial advisor, but more so a financial, like, I'm coaching people and telling people, and teaching them, empowering, educating them. A
financial coach. Okay.
Yeah, financial educator. But the beauty of it is in terms of trust, man, is you only have your name, right? So at the end of the day, like, because I started SimpMe at a time in my life when, like, I was very young, and also the people around me saw what I was doing, we've all progressed and grown at different stages in our lives. And some people went back to business school. Some people are doctors. Some people are lawyers. Some people work at tech. Some people are firefighters. Some people are cops. But I've always published this content and given people away this information that I'm passionate about to help them. That when I started fine-tuning and deciding that this is what I want to do in my business, I already had like 10 years of goodwill and trust.
Yeah.
People believe me. People believe me and trust me because they know that I'm doing this because this is what I love to do. You know what I mean? I genuinely enjoy like helping people in general, and I just love teaching people about things that can empower them, something that it takes. So the trust that I built up, man, has been built over time from just goodwill. So anybody can look back at the early days of SimpMe and look at, scroll all the way down on Instagram and look at the first post and post before Instagram was even a thing. I have other information and things that I had my first iteration of my website, which was completely different than what it is now. So it's been years and years of people me showing up every day doing this.
Yeah.
Me saying, hey, I'm taking this to another level because now I have more tools in my toolkit. I have a broader network. My mind is different, and I've seen different things in companies, and I've learned different things differently. I know a lot more about how to build and scale, and I have the right team around me. I have a great team of people working with SimpMe. So it's not even just me. I have a great team. Mm-hmm. So that's essentially, timing is everything. If I had tried to do this before, I wouldn't be ready. But now I feel more confident than ever that what we're doing is going to continue to help and reach more people because of the trust over the years and because of the team and because of the way in which we're building out the infrastructure and the foundation.
Yeah. Bro, I absolutely love everything you're saying. The first thing that came to mind when you were talking to me is, I remember you texted me the launch of the SimpMe website, and I was so fucking proud of you, man, because I know how much work you've put into day in and day out to get where you are today. And the first thing I've thought about, bro, and I was I'm going to put this on the podcast. You showed me this video of you when you're like 14, 13, super little, looking like very young. And it was just like, I don't know, some dude who was asking you like, yo, what do I want to do? What do you want to do when you grow up? And you were like, I want to create some type of financial education company, like SparkNotes or something. It was like I think you said something like SparkNotes, and you were like 13, 14 saying this.
My dream job is to own an amazing company, like an educational website or something like SparkNotes kind of.
Regardless of how successful you are or whatever, just to see you pursuing your goals 15 years later, bro, it's like, bro, like, I love that, bro. Like, I love to see people, being a man of their word, not just saying it, but actually being about it, and to see how far you've come, like, from that video, and to see the man that you're becoming and using all these skills, like, it's very impressive and inspiring. Every time I see you post on LinkedIn, I'm like, man, I gotta post some too, and like be consistent with posting on my podcast, man. I love the consistency.
Thank you, my brother. No, listen, man, you've been a huge advocate for it, and we're like-minded in terms of our endeavors, bro, and visionary in terms of what we're trying to do and really just bringing knowledge to the people, bro. So, like I said, I love you, man. I love your family. I love your little brother. I love your siblings, me, your sister. Like, you guys, you're your family. You guys are great. You know what I mean? And it's a world to me, bro. It's funny, too, that video that you're referencing, that was actually at St. Sebastian's when we were graduating from high school. And David Lee. Shout outs to David Lee's, man. Graduated with David Lee, class of 2011. David was like producing, and we were making a video where we were essentially asking people, hey, like, what's your dream job, or where do you want to be in time? And I was like, my dream job is I want to start an educational company like Smart Girls, because I was already working on something at the time, which was on education. It didn't work out, but that was like the seed. Like my desire to help and educate people and teach people these things through tech, do websites, through tech-enabled software. Like, that's really what the spark. I've always been into building things. I love creativity. I love just like building stuff. Since I was a child, I just love like being involved in stuff. And I've been around people in business in my life, in my family, through networks, through church family, through people I know from church. My dad is a businessman. My mother works in business. Like, it's in me. So my sister works in business. She's little, but she younger than me, but she followed that same pursuit. So, you know what I mean? Like, it was a natural progression. I appreciate you bringing that video up, man, because whenever the days get tough, or when it's gotten tough,
you watch it.
Back on that, man. I really...
Bro, I mean, number it's such a great form of inspiration, bro, to see how much you've grown. And, you know, it's like you said, I feel like God is preparing you to become the man that you need to be in order to lead that company. And maybe back then, clearly, like, no disrespect, you didn't have the skills, you know, or the knowledge or the experience or the network to really do what you're doing. So I think what you're doing is great. I wanted to ask you about your content production and your content marketing. One thing that I've noticed that I feel like is very impressive about SimpMe is the consistency in which you post. You know, whether it's on LinkedIn or on YouTube or on your other platforms, you seem like you're always posting consistently, especially LinkedIn. I'm just kind of curious, how are you able to post on a daily basis about such in-depth financial content?
Mm-hmm. So for me, I have a great team, right? So shout outs to Tom Hoff. Tom Hoff is Seb's guy. Literally like one of my best friends in the entire world. Love him to death. Great person. Tom is an incredible writer. He leads our newsletter amongst other products. He's chief product officer. Leads a lot of initiatives. We always have like a certain schedule in terms of our content, what we want to generate, our ideas. Shout outs to Dom Biadero. Dom is on the SimpMe team as well. Dom is a close friend of mine from our old employer. Great individual. Super smart, super bright, and always coming with different ideas. Nate Lynch on the team. Nate handles a lot of our graphics, a lot of our creative content development. Nate is extremely wonderful in terms of production and making things pop and the rebranding of SimpMe and where we're going. My mom does a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and we just have a strong team, right? Mm-hmm. So when I think about it, it's more so like having the right people around you to engage in conversations about what's going on. Right? Like, I always talk about things that are current. I understand that on certain days, I will put in more deep work in terms of identifying what's going on that I want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And then I'll also use that to repurpose things that I may post on LinkedIn onto other platforms and other mediums. So if I post a long form piece of content on LinkedIn, I may chop that up and then have my graphic team make that into carousels that I will implement on Facebook or implement on Instagram. So it's all about repurposing and being very strategic, but less is more, right? Honestly, like, outside of, you use a lot of the social media networks to build up buzz, to get content out there, but you have to really think about with anything that you start, whatever business you're in, that's a rented audience. You don't own that audience. Mm-hmm. Invested a lot of time into building up our own audience, our own email list, our own, like, essentially having email lists in doing different ways and having features and aspects of lead generation magnets that we have in that allow people to opt into getting into our ecosystem, because then we own that list, that distribution list. Mm-hmm. Because if the algorithm changes on any of these platforms and you're at the whim of the platform, you're sales. But my business and what we're creating is different because we're building a whole tech-enabled ecosystem that makes financial literacy comprehensible. We can't really be put into a box. We're not just a content engine. We're not just selling ebooks and just digital courses. We're doing different things to make the whole picture. The product portfolio will be very comprehensive, where it makes sense in terms of how we're structuring the business going forward. So that's the biggest piece of advice that I would say in terms of having the right people, understanding what's going on, having a production calendar, and then repurposing that material and building them, that's the key that I follow. But I learned that just from reading books, talking to people, talking to mentors and stuff who have had extreme success in tech and business that have kind of taught me some of these lessons. And I've watched what they accomplish and achieve and kind of like said, okay, let me take that piece from that person.
Yeah. And so essentially what you're doing is you're learning how to build a system that works for you so that you can do a bunch of things. And it's not like you're the only one doing it by yourself, exactly. which is awesome, man. You know, I'm curious to hear, because you posted so much content about different financial literacy and tips. What, out of all the content that you posted, what was the one that was the most successful or the most viral, and what was it about that really hit people and were like, yo, man, I love this post?
It's funny you mentioned that. I had one post that kind of had a little bit of virality effect. This was a post I did explaining how a lot of athletes essentially are getting into venture capital and private equity deals. Yeah. And I was breaking down that whole realm and then connecting that to, okay, like, you as a normal individual, you may not be able to invest in some of these alternative investments quite yet because you may not be there, but you can be. But they're identifying good companies and they're identifying early stage businesses or good businesses, but you could also make money on really good tech companies that are publicly traded. And I was kind of connecting at, like, you may not have invested in Facebook at the IPO or before, when it was private, before they IPO'd. But if you invested in Facebook at IPO and then now, you could have made a lot of money. Or same thing with Amazon. Yeah. So conditioning people to think about that. But the person highlighted in the post was Andre Iguodala.
Oh, love him. Nigerian.
Yeah. And I respect Andre Iguodala as a player, as a businessman. I just admire what he's achieved. And
what has he achieved? Just curious, because I'm not quite familiar. I know he's very smart.
Andre Iguodala played in the NBA for years, and he was on the Golden State Warriors. Did extremely well on the Philadelphia 76ers. And I was watching a podcast that he did. I can't remember where it was, but you can Google it. He's interviewed at all these different like schools and like organizations and stuff talking about it. But what he was explaining was how like he had a friend who was one of his teammates who had a financial advisor, someone who was talking about investments and investing in tech and all this other stuff and public equities. And from him hearing his teammate talk about that and knowing his financial advisor, he was connected Andre to the individual. And then Andre was like, oh, this guy's teaching me about this, talking to me about investing in public equities. If I'm making this signing bonus or I'm getting this endorsement, I could put money into stocks like Google and stuff like that. And he started doing that. And from there, he ended up realizing that he was making money. To the point that guy became his financial advisor. I'm blanking on his name, but he was saying that this individual, so the guy who's his financial advisor, who he got connected with, I'm blanking on his name, but he is his current financial advisor to this day, and they do business together. But I'll get to that in a second. When that guy told him that to see if he was serious about investing, Andre kept doing it, and he kept seeing that his portfolio was growing. So then he was like, well, if that's the case, I need to be doing more. He was doing this through a brokerage account. He kept investing. He kept doing it. Then he had an opportunity where he was like, hey, like, I don't know if I'm going to re-sign with the 76ers, but I have an opportunity to maybe go to Golden State Warriors. Now, what do you think goes through someone's mind when you think about going from Philadelphia 76ers to Golden State from a business perspective? Silicon Valley. Yeah. He was like, I could be in Silicon Valley and I could be in that ecosystem.
Oh, like, smart. Yeah.
I'm surrounded by people that are innovating in that ecosystem. So for him, he took, I think, a pay cut anyways. He knew he wasn't going to be the star because he
was old.
They had Clay, they had Steph, they had all these
Draymond,
they had all this young talent. But for him, he was looking at the bigger scale. I can make money, I can make decent money, take a little bit of cut, but I'm playing on a team and an ecosystem and an environment that's going to help me build generational wealth for my family. And then he went out there, and then he got more ingrained into investing, not just in public equities, but on private investments. So then he got down with venture capitalists and private equity experts and stuff. And because he's in the NBA, he has access. But access doesn't mean accessibility. Yeah. Because he was able to talk about things that he was reading about, he started becoming a student of the game. He started really saying, hey, there was a company like Walker & Co., I think was the company, which is a really interesting company, CPG brand by Tristan Walker, that got purchased. And there was another company, I think it was like, I don't want to say it was Zoom. There was another tech company that he invested in, a bunch. Maybe it was Ring. I think it was Ring.
Okay.
He essentially was saying to a lot of these founders, hey, I can help you because I have reach and I have access. I can help you for marketing because I understand marketing and branding through what I do at my brand. So not only can I invest as an angel investor in your business, but I can also help the business. He wasn't just coming in there like, hey, I have money, write checks, because all those companies in Silicon Valley, if you're a good idea, you can get a check.
Yeah.
Like, I'm bringing something to the table. So he aligned himself with people in the space that were killing it. And then he got equity in a lot of early stage deals, which turned into him being able to make a lot of money and have exits and make not only his FBA money, but money in public equities, private equity, and private investment deals with venture capital, because he was in SF in the Valley, and his MBA money. And then now, to the point, what he's doing to bring this all home is he retired, and he announced how with his retirement, he's going full-time on his venture capital fund.
Wow.
It's starting since he was in the MBA.
He set himself up to retire.
Guess his VC fund. The state financial advisor that he got hip to because of his teammate. So I wrote a little blog about that, and I tagged him, and then he liked it.
Hey, my guy Andre, bro. Shout out
to Andre Iguodala. You know, we got to see this.
Yo, shout out to the guy, Andre Iguodala. If you ever want to come, bro, we're both Nigerian, bro. I love you.
Oh, yeah, man. That's what I'm saying. He's a Nigerian boy.
Yo, I love Andre Iguodala. I know it's kind of off tangent, but I was always a big fan of his game, bro. He was super versatile.
Yeah.
It seems like his intellect on the court also translates to off the court.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing, bro. And it sounds like he has a lot of it's just great to see him representing for the Nigerians. But yeah, bro. So another question, bro, I wanted to ask you is, what is your favorite form of investment, bro? So because right now there's real estate. I invest in real estate. I have 2 properties, but then there's also the stocks, right? There's stocks. There's crypto. There's so many different. There's private equity. There's so many different ways you can invest. What's your favorite form of investment, or that works best for you? And what's some type of and what's some other investments that you think other people should know about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question, Ike. So I look at everything based off of, doing what makes sense logically. And one of my favorite types of investments, as not a financial advisor, but what I do and what I see what happens and what works and people have talked to me about, are index funds.
Yeah.
Index funds. So within any large financial institution, if you have a brokerage account, whether it's with Fidelity, Charles Schwab, etc., you could essentially invest in what are called index funds. And index funds, there's 2 different types of index funds. You have different types of index funds. You have a mutual fund, or you have an ETF. A lot of people get access to mutual funds via their 401k or their pension, if they're like work for a state employee, or if they are a firefighter, a police officer, you name it. If you work for an employer, you have a 401k. If you work for, 403Bs or from nonprofits and stuff like that, if you work for a hospital and stuff like that. But you can get access to that through your retirement account. They have different minimum investments that you can, you have to have minimum amounts of money that you have to be able to invest in those. But ETFs, on the other hand, invest in a lot of the same things that you get in mutual funds at low expense ratio. Mm-hmm. For me, like, I'm always looking and buying ETFs, S&P 500 index funds ETFs. Mm-hmm. They own the 500 largest companies. The S&P 500 over 100 years is generating 10% annualized.
Yeah.
And then some years it's 20%, and other years it may be down, but it's very consistent.
Yeah.
In the past year, from like 2023 to 2024, the S&P returned 25% if you just So it's like that's a real easy way to just like broad diversification into a lot of different companies without having to pick individual winners. Mm-hmm. Like different sectors, like tech, like myself, you can invest in ETFs and low-cost index funds that own the largest tech companies that you can imagine. Google, Facebook, Amazon, NVIDIA, Apple, as opposed to you having to buy Facebook, at whatever the share price is. If you don't have enough money, you can still get exposure through these index funds. And then when you get up to that point when you want to buy a stock up front and say, I want to pay $100 or $200 per share, you can do that. So the beauty about ETFs is that you can get broad range diversification into a number of companies across different sectors that you may have interest in at low expense ratios. And then you can couple that with going long on some companies that you really like. And that's what I like to do and how I structure my portfolio and my investments. Like, I really just keep it simple. I do not overcomplicate it. It's just like, that's like the tried and true way to do it. I've spoken to people who've shared with me, individuals I know who are money managers, like really large prestigious companies. And one individual that I know told me that one of their largest clients, like billions of dollars, they don't invest in private deals. They invest only in public equities.
Wow.
Because you're at a point where it's wealth preservation. They're not trying to listen, right? Like, at the end of the day, as long as you're investing in something that's outpacing inflation, which is the money losing value from sitting in a bank account that's not giving you any yield, you're okay with just getting your rate that you know you're going to get. You're not doing speculative things. Like, there's so many things out here. People have FOMO. People like, I want to trade options. I want to be a day trader. Like, if you just follow a really consistent strategy, then you could be fine.
And that's one of the hardest things about the stock market. There's over like hundreds and hundreds of companies, and it can get so easy to fall prey to any one of them because you don't know what to do, Then you see one stock that's going up 100% and you're just trying to catch the wave like everybody else. And then as soon as you start following the wave, it seems like that's when it starts, doing it. And it's kind of like crypto, and it seems like there's so many different investments out there. It can kind of be confusing to be like, yo, which one am I going to focus on, and why should I focus on it? And when I'm seeing other stocks go up 50%, my mind isn't, what's stopping me from switching? You know what I'm saying?
Right. And that's a good point. Like, that's why, like, I focus with our mentorship program and what we talk about, a lot of the information, and I nail it on all of my mentees in our mentorship groups, where I'm telling them, listen, ETFs and this broad range diversification and stuff like that is really strong. And the beauty of it is I have different individuals within our ecosystem, speakers and individuals that, like, my mentees have access to, that are professionals. If you don't believe it from me, you can hear it from them. Right? Professionals that are licensed, that understand this stuff, that do this day in and day out. If you Google it and you look up what Warren Buffett says, he always talks about investing in ETFs and stuff. The biggest, wealthiest people. So it's so easy to get caught up in FOMO. I think that it's like, the beauty of it is, to me, I go to the gym, I work out, I'm very into exercise and fitness.
Yeah.
I see a fad of someone doing a keto diet or something that doesn't work for me. I stick to what works for me because I know my body. I know that if I eat certain foods, I will do well and I'll perform well. I will get good rest. If I drink enough water, I'll do this. If somebody comes out with a new energy drink or a new product or something like that, or these crazy people are doing, unfortunately doing like steroids and stuff, well, you jump to do that. Unfortunately, some people do, but you have to follow what works for you. There's an analogy. The same thing works within investing. If you all this noise around you, when you know what your objective is and what works for your body physically, and you know what works for your portfolio financially, stick to what works for you.
Yeah.
There's always going to be the next thing out there, but if you focus on what works for you, you will be fine.
And bro, I loved your advice, bro. And I'm gonna tell you a story, bro, where I'm gonna keep it a stack, man. And I kind of wish it maybe just stick to what I knew and kept on ETFs. But I ain't not gonna lie, I have nothing against crypto. I think crypto is great. I think it has potential. But I fell prey to the crypto thing, and there was a time I was investing thousands and thousands of crypto, and I had my money invested in something called Voyager. It's a very small like brokerage, but essentially, a lot more people are familiar with the FTX story. Once FTX went down, all the money, people couldn't get their money back. And essentially, what happened to me was a similar story where, because crypto went down, these brokerage didn't have the capital to give back the money to the people. So I'm not gonna lie. Unfortunately, I lost thousands of dollars, and it hurt. It hurt as an investor to lose that much money in crypto. But honestly, that experience made me a lot more wiser and conservative in the way I want to go about investing my money. So I'm listening to you, bro. I'm sticking to what I know, and I've been investing in ETF funds and keeping it simple, bro. I think sometimes it's so easy to get caught up with the the explosive swings. That's why everybody loved crypto, because everybody wanted to get rich quick. Like, you know what I'm saying? And crypto seemed like an opportunity to just make 300%, 200% returns in a day. And I felt like that greediness kind of started to fall back on a lot of people. Now back in the pandemic, everybody was talking about crypto. Now when you talk to people about crypto, it's kind of like, bro, like, I lost my money, right? But whatever, the conversation seems to be different now. You know what I'm saying? So I think it goes back to what you're saying. Slow and steady wins the race, bro. And just talking to you is inspiring me to just keep on being consistent with investing in ETFs. I want to ask you, bro, what are some ETFs that people should invest in? I personally like to invest in VOO, VOO, and VUG.
I have VOO. Yep.
I do VOO and VUG. Yep. What are some? Maybe those are some. But what are other funds that people who may not be familiar with? Should they invest in, or what are some ETFs that you like or we're checking out?
Some that I own and that I like: VTI.
Oh, VTI.
Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, QQQ, Invesco, NASDAQ 100 Tech Focused ETF. Love that one. Own that one. There are a couple other ones. XHB was a home buyers one. Shout outs to Joe Tamburello, Seb's guy.
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah, he was in my class. Yeah, that guy was in my class.
That's my brother. Me and him talk all the time. Me and Joe go way, way, way back.
Yeah, he was in my class.
He introduced me to a couple of those home builder ETFs a long time ago. A couple ETFs. I'm blanking on the ticker right now that I have. It like invests in financial and like bank stocks. The beauty of ETFs is like, no matter what industry you're interested in, you could almost find an ETF for a sector that you like and get broad diversification. That's why I really love them. And just from everything that I've seen from my old employer when I was working there and understanding mutual funds and ETFs and the guts of what's going on in the performance, it was kind of like a no-brainer. I was seeing it every day. I'm like, we're preparing this material, and I'm seeing how these funds are functioning and how they're performing. I would be remiss to not invest in them. Yeah. And I realized that there were other ways that I can like get into them, and cheaper ways, and also bring this knowledge to other people. So those are the ones that I really like. People who know way more than me and have like had extreme success tell me the same ones. So I'm like, all right, I'm all about fact pattern recognition. Like, I'm really good at like looking at patterns. Like that's kind of how my brain is conditioned. So I can like see something and I'll like kind of watch it.
Yes.
And I'm like, when I keep hearing things more and more and more, I'm like, all right, well, I don't have to hear it another 100 times to think and know that index funds like do that. Low cost index funds, low cost index funds, low cost index funds, and time in the market. I always say to everybody, time in the market versus timing the market. If you write that down, wherever, time in the market is greater than timing the market, right?
Yep.
That's how you do it. Like you just said, slow and steady wins the race, man.
Yeah.
Slow and steady wins
and so one of the things, bro, about investing that, because look, everything you're saying is super simple. This is not freaking complicated, but I feel like just like going to the gym where everybody kind of knows how simple it is to just, you work out, you eat your greens and your vegetables. It's easier said than done, it seems like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people have trouble staying consistent. So I feel like one of the keys to being a successful investor, and correct me if you're wrong, I feel like it's a lot less about what you're actually investing in, and it's more about your discipline and just staying consistent. Am I correct in that? And if so, how do people stay disciplined so that they don't make the mistake I did and just go to crypto or go to something that they're not so familiar with and capitalize on their income?
So you're absolutely right, man, about discipline being like the real basis of how you stay focused. The one thing when I think about investing is I don't invest in things that I don't understand. Like if I can't understand it, I don't do it. I read a lot of books about Warren Buffett and him talking about that, and other individuals that were like some of the most prominent investors. They only invest in things that they understand. If there's something they don't know, then they probably will get somebody to manage that and do it for them, but they don't take the responsibility on themselves and just jump into things like because they just read it online. You know what I mean? So I think that's the key to being disciplined. I think if you stay within what you know, like you don't really get so caught up in that. I think if you decide that you want to do something that's a little bit more speculative, right? Whether it's have a little bit of allocation to crypto, you take a percentage of your assets based on what you're willing to lose. So a lot of times people, like you said, they get caught up in the greed and the FOMO. So they put more and they over leverage and put in too much money into something that they don't know anything about because they think it's like a quick dopamine hit, like they can make money off of it.
Yeah.
But it's like if you put a little bit of money into that and you make money, okay, cool. If you lose it, you're okay and comfortable with the fact that you lost it. But your nest egg and what you're really focused in on from your disciplined investment strategy is what you stick with. So like within our mentorship program, we talk a lot about that. I have different factors and stuff that I talk to individuals in my mentorship class about in terms of how you can stay focused on your goal. And that's, people have to come to the mentorship class to know that, right? But that's essentially how I focus, man. If I don't understand it, I stay away from it. If it seems like it's baddie, I'm good.
Yeah.
Do what works for me. And then I have trusted people around me that I'll run things by too as well. If something's like, someone say, hey, that actually is not that bad. Like, that sounds pretty cool, right? Like, you have to have really good people. Surround yourself not with yes men or yes women, people that actually are going to challenge you. Tell me why this is probably a bad idea. And but when it comes to no-brainer, to me, a no-brainer thing, we're talking right now, I'm on my back. I have an iPhone right here. I'm wearing my Apple Watch right here. My AirPods right here. I'm a consumer of that, but I can also own that. I took time to spend money to own these things.
Yeah.
Use them. So why not own a piece of the pie of right? So then that's something that I'm like, well, I like this stuff and I'm using it. And there's a utility. I will own that. If I'm struggling to understand the utility of said investment that I don't even use or know anything about, then I'll stay away from it.
Yeah. And bro, I love everything you're saying. I think slow and steady wins the race. One thing I do want to combat you with, bro, is because I'm gonna be honest, bro. Like I love investing. I think investing is great, and I think investing in stocks are great. But there are people, and I guess maybe I'm speaking about myself, but there's a lot of people who don't want to feel like they have to wait 10, 15 years to get the wealth that they want. And that's where the problem starts. You know what I'm saying? I have the blessing of being a pharmacist and making six figures. But even with that income and putting money into my stocks, I feel like, despite my 25, 30% returns, I don't feel like it's growing at a rate fast enough that is satisfactory to me. And then I know there's people who are making a lot less, maybe 50, 60,000. And, they even though they're making a 15 to 20% income, like it's maybe resulting in an extra couple $100. What is the motivation for them to keep going? You know what I'm saying? If I'm being honest, because I feel like stocks are super lit when you're a millionaire, like you have millions and or like a billionaire. It's like Warren Buffett. Now it becomes a game of wealth preservation. But if you're starting off and you might have a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 in your brokerage, what's motivating somebody to keep pushing forward?
I think for me, the motivation is understanding what would you do with that money otherwise. Like what's the best alternative? What's the opportunity cost? I'm going to go buy this thing that I don't really need and I already have too much of this, or just let this sit and grow. If you feel like you're going to have access to it and you can't even bear to watch how slow it's growing, is to just delete the app off your phone and just know that the money's going into it automatically. You're going to keep checking to the point where you're like, it's not growing quick enough.
Yeah.
You made a lot of good points. Like I said, you have a great job, right? And obviously you understand that you're supplementing your income with other income generating things. The stock market is just one piece.
Yeah.
You're thinking about income generating assets. That's also what we preach and what we talk about. How things to make other money doing different ways.
Yes.
Right? Like, because you only can make as much money as your time. Your time is valuable. When you start figuring out how you can maximize your time with the right people around you to optimize the growth of your business, whatever you like to do, and then you're doing your other job, whatever, you're in other deals, that's how you generate.
Yes.
But you can't wait till you get $1 million to say you want to be financially literate. It starts with this. So for me, it's like delayed gratification. Me, when I first started investing, I literally was an intern personally investing, and I didn't have that much money. It's a couple $100. But at the end of the day, I kept doing it over and over and over again. And I'm blessed to be in a position where I've made some good decisions where it's kind of paid off for me. So at the end of the day, that's kind of how you have to think about it. Everybody started somewhere.
Yeah.
That you have to really be disciplined and know that what you want for the long term is better than the short term. And not to mention too, understanding what it builds for your legacy. I'm so legacy building, and I'm so big into doing things. The decision that I make today how that can impact my future. Like
Yes.
my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. I may not see the benefit of everything that I did with investing in a brokerage account, but I know that there's different accounts and 401ks and investments that I have that at a minimum, somebody's going to be blessed by that in my family and my legacy, and my children or my family can like benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
And when Sam Walton started Walmart, or when Jeff Bezos and these individuals start these companies, do you think that they thought, well, I'm going to benefit from everything that I have to give in this business? If Sam Walton poured, like, I mean, just understanding what Walmart is and how it's a huge multi-billion dollar company, mega cap company,
Mm-hmm.
you had to have the decision and the foresight to say, I'm going to start Walmart. I'm going to do whatever I do. Walmart wasn't as big as Walmart was when he started it and like died to where it is now. But he made the decision. So like, you have $200 or $300 and you invest, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years now you keep investing steadily, and you got hundreds of thousands of dollars, $500,000, million. It's bigger than you. Understand that that's bigger than you because you're setting somebody else up in your family. And that's what I'm really big on. That's what I tell people in my mentorship. I'm like, yes, you want to enjoy your money. Don't get me wrong. It's not about just invest, save, and not enjoy your money. Enjoy it. But if you have and make that decision and you condition your mind to be financially fit for yourself, your heirs and your children, your seed, like they will be able to benefit from that. My dad always talks to me about that. He always poured that into me about legacy building, about things that my grandfather did with his legacies and building things and being an owner, entrepreneur. Like, just not to go down tangent, but you know, business and how it's been ingrained in me. My great grandfather had a lot of land in South Carolina. They weren't rich or anything, but he was able to like raise his own crop, sell things. He was a businessman. He was an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
My dad saw that. My grandma saw that. My uncle on my dad's side had a fish market in Harlem. My dad grew up there seeing that. So he always was around that, and he poured into me his legacy building. But they saw that. He saw that to see that you can build something.
Mm-hmm.
He poured that into me. He started his own business. My dad's a real estate brokerage company. You know, my mom works in pharmaceuticals. Like, they have done very great things, and I'm so thankful for my family, my parents. They poured that back into me and my sister. So I say all that to say is that, like, that $200 that you invest or whatever, and it's too slow, it's going too slow, it's bigger than you. And that's what I really want people to take away from this anecdote, is it's bigger than you. Yeah, that's what I got. And when I got that, I was like, whoa, like, now I know this. You and I we've had conversations offline about this.
For sure.
No, you own real estate, you own properties, man. Like, you're setting yourself up for generational prosperity. My sister, that's her line, intergenerational prosperity.
That's fire.
Well, because prosperity is not just money, right?
Yeah.
Spiritually fit, right? Your relationship. I'm a very spiritual person. You have to be financially fit, health-wise, right? Yeah. Generational prosperity is bigger than just wealth.
Yes.
Be wealthy, healthy, and spirit. It's not all about money.
Yes.
Your mind is focused that way.
Bro, I loved everything you said, bro. You know, you said so much great things. And I guess one of the things I want to, focus on, and I guess because you said you're very spiritual, and I know you're a very devout Christian, you know what I'm saying? And so how has your relationship with God served you financially and spiritually and physically and in all aspects of your life?
Yeah, honestly, like, I know that all things are possible through Christ. My favorite verse is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, Philippians 4 verse 13. That's like one of my life verses. I was blessed from an early age to grow up in the church. My parents are very involved in the church. My grandparents are very involved in the church, but not it being beat over my head where it's like, oh, Jordan, you have to go to church. I've seen how God has impacted my life from the day I came into this world as a premature child. And it was a rough time for my family, for my mother, for my dad. And when I think back on that situation and hear the story, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, obviously. I wasn't there mentally to know, cognitively to know what's going on. But hearing the stories of kind of like me kind of being a fighter from being a little child to being strong in who I am today, and my dad telling me and reflecting on that story and telling me, you know, people may be thinking, oh, like if he grows up, he may have some like development issues, this, that, and the third, or and me not being able to breathe on my own when I was in the NICU, right? But then when my dad said like they came in, the sirens were going, I pulled it off and I was breathing on my own.
That's crazy. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that story, right? Like a lot of people don't know that story. But like when I think back on that and I hear people who see me to this day and have seen me throughout my life and they kind of get emotional or they say something, I feel like God put me on this earth for a reason and for right. So to me, Ike, like I feel like I came into this world like with a purpose. So whenever days are bad or I feel bad or upset about something, I'm like, well, God put me on this earth for a purpose. My mom didn't pass away during the surgery, you know what I mean, or during the pregnancy. My dad, okay. Then we have my little sister and stuff like that. Like that's divine to me. I take that seriously. So like everything that's happened in my life with meeting different people, like going to St. Sebastian's and having teachers that poured into me, going to Villanova, and going to John Hancock, and working at Splunk, going to Stern, and being able to be in this position right now, only because of God, bro.
Yeah.
So many other things that I can go into, and I feel like my testimony and the things I've endured are only going to become more. I can share those stories with people one day.
Yeah.
That's what drives me, man, is my faith. That's my faith is what drives me because I know that without God, none of this would be possible. It may sound cliche, but I know what God's done to me. God's been good to me.
Yeah, bro. I don't want to glance over that. You talked about how you almost nearly died as a baby from when you were in the ICU. Can you talk about that more, bro? Because I didn't know about this, bro. But it sounds like a great story, bro.
Yeah, no, it wasn't as much that I was gonna personally die. My mom had a rough, pregnancy or whatever like that.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things where I was born premature, so I was supposed to be born in March. I was born in January. I weighed like 2 pounds. I was tiny, man. I was little. Yeah, I was little. So it was the idea that I would be okay, but maybe I would have some developmental issues, this, that, and the third. Because obviously, like, that wasn't normal, right? I was like, for a long time, I had set a record for being like one of the smallest children to be born in Mass General Brigham Hospital.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and like I said, like, at the end of the day, like, my dad always tells me one day we were in the supermarket in our local town back in Randolph, and we were walking down the aisle, and I was reading this stuff, and then one of the nurses that actually helped deliver me just ran into me and my dad walking, and she just broke down and cried because she just didn't see me after that, you know? But to me, man, like that's only God, like, right? Like I know that God is real to me. I know what God's done in my life. You can't go through that, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That was, you know, I'm blessed to have a family. People have prayed for me. I know I pray for my family, my future family all the time. And I know my dad was praying for us before we were even a thing in his family. So that instilled in me, bro, from like a very, very early age. And I take that extremely seriously in terms of how I try to understand what God has done to me and don't take that lightly. You and I have had conversations like about faith and that and this, that, and the third. And it's definitely something that I hold near and dear to my heart.
For sure. Yeah. Bro, I think I love everything you said about faith. And I'm glad people like you honestly inspire me to strengthen my faith and be a stronger, more devout Christian. Because one of the things that I've noticed that a lot of people who are successful, they all seem to have a strong faith. And it seems like their faith just keeps them pushing through all the hardships of their lives, whatever they're going through, because they know that God is with them. And seeing your testimony and how much you share your story, honestly inspires me to just stay stronger with my faith. You know, I love how devoted you are to your Christian faith and how much it's helped you become the man that you be, bro. You know, I want to ask you, bro, when I say this quote, the essence of life is in relationships, what do you think about?
Think of St. Sebastian's.
Hold on, that's the quote. That always reminds me, bro. I always remember that quote. That's like one of the few things I remember. But like, I love that because I feel like every time I talk to you, bro, and it kind of glimmers into my life. You're always talking about relationships, bro. Like it's so interesting to me. Like you're just always talking about, oh, I just did this with Ike, or I just did this with this man, or my father's helping me, or I have a great team with Tom Hoff. Oh yeah, shout out to Tom Hoff, by the way. I love that guy.
Shout out to Ike Hoff. Shout out to the whole Hoff.
Definitely gotta connect with him. But every time I'm talking to you, you're always talking about how some type of relationship is helping you flourish. You know what I'm saying? And that's something I admire about you, something I'm trying to implement more in my life. Doing this podcast has been incredible for me because yeah, I'm inspiring people, but it's also helping me build relationships with people that I typically wouldn't build a relationship with.
Yes.
And as I'm getting older, I'm beginning to value relationships a lot more. I'm beginning to value my friends, my girlfriend, my
Yes.
people like you, bro, and being a lot more intentional about actually making time to form those relationships, bro. Where did you get that sense of importance to foster community and build relationships with people?
It's funny, man. I feel like I've always been, even as a young child, you know, my dad would always say, "Hey, Jordan, everybody's not your friend." I would always be quick to call somebody my friend because I was extremely friendly child,
Yeah.
extroverted. I love being around people, but not over the top. I can be,
Yeah.
but I really, really do feed off other people's energy. I love to go to the park. I love to go to the gym. I love to go to walks. And I'll just talk to random people. Like, I just love to talk to people and just
Yeah.
communicate and just talk. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in New York City and I'm cool with my deli, the guys at my deli, because they're nice. Like,
Yeah.
I enjoy talking to them. They're good people, right?
Yeah.
So I've always just been into I've just been friendly, right? It's not hard to be a good person. I feel like, so I try to be a good person. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I try to be as good as a person as I can be. And even when you think about, say, Sebastian's and like that experience, like for me, relationships like this, like one thing proud as Headmaster Burke was saying, like, I love Mr. Burke to death.
Yeah.
Right. I know he's about to retire soon, but he's done so much for the St. Sebastian community. And obviously we wouldn't know each other.
Yeah.
And all those relationships that I made at the school, like to this day, I still keep in touch with them. Like, there's just so many people.
That's crazy.
Before, and I just think it's natural for me. It's just natural for me to check up on my friends just because I really care about them. Not because I want anything, but because I really care about them. And I may not talk to somebody like for a while, but when I see them, we hit it off. Why? Because we have a relationship and because I value them, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, relationships are everything, man, in life. You know, it's all about just being a good person, not for anything transactional. Just
For
be a good
sure.
person, and right? Like I said, I love this podcast. I love what you're creating, Ike, in terms of these relationships, and you're getting emotion and evoking energy out of me.
Yeah.
Skills. So you're developing an extremely powerful skill set. And I believe your podcast is going to continue to take off, man. And I'm just glad that I'm able to be on one of the episodes right now to be able to share my story, because relationships and stuff like that are so key, my brother.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you said, bro. I appreciate the good words. I think that yeah, honestly, to hear how much you value relationships is definitely putting an imprint in my head to do that. And one of the things that as I start to, because I like to meditate and dream about things, and it wasn't until I got older and I started communicating with people like you. One of the things I'm beginning to dream about now is creating community. Right? Whether that's a digital community or a physical community, it's just a place for people to connect and socialize and love each other. You know what I'm saying? And I'm hoping to do that with this podcast. I'm hoping you are able to do that with SimpMe. And, outside of money and whatnot, it's really good to just have people that love you are surrounded about you, And I'm trying to do that more, and I clearly see that you have a lot of that. And I think that's dope, bro. I think that allows you to be so consistent in pursuing all your goals and your faith, right?
Thank you, man. Yeah. Thank you. You're right, Ike. It's all about community. And that's what I would say. It takes a village, right? So, I don't name drop people just because I'm name dropping. I'm literally mentioning people who've actually been super formidable in my entire growth as a human. So I don't take any of that lightly in terms of the people around, that community to help uplift you to be whatever you want to be or to do whatever you want to do. Nobody can do it alone. So you're absolutely right about being so just be real about the community that you want to create. And I love what you're creating with your community. I have a robust community that I'm creating with SimpMe, with spreading this knowledge. And it's so funny how people in my mentorship are meeting each other. And doing things with each other. Right? Just they're getting educated on financial literacy, and then somebody works in this industry and this person works here, and it's a meeting of the minds, and they can go off and do something. I like connecting dots. I like introducing friends to other people to help them. So it's just so funny how that's organically happening.
And I'm beginning to start to learn a lot more about that connection in itself is extremely valuable. Creating a community where people can connect with other like-minded people and network, that is an extreme value that a lot of places can't offer. You know what I'm saying? And I love that you talked about that because I'm trying to do that more. I'll give you a little short story, but I'm part of this like Christian church community, and they gave us an opportunity to lead. And I'm very big on trying to lead people. So, they did this thing called, I created this community called Gaming for Jesus. And I like to play video games, and I like Christians. So we created a community, bro, where every Friday we have a bunch of Christians, and we just get together and we play video games, bro. And it ain't nothing deep, but we get together, we pray, we talk about God, and then we connect. You know what I'm saying? And to be able to create that community means a lot for me, because a lot of people are simply either getting introduced to God, or not even that. There's an epidemic of loneliness. I feel like a lot of people don't have friends, and especially a lot of men. And they don't, as a man, you don't want to be like, yo, bro, I don't have any. Just as a person, no one wants to be that person who says, yo, I don't have friends. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And so for me to create that community meant a lot for me, because I saw people connecting with people that they would never have, and making friendships outside of that. And I love that we're talking about that, because it inspires me to want to do that, not just for video games, but maybe for podcasting and for a lot more things, whether it be sickle cell disease or whatever. I think that community is very important, and it's very valuable,
No, I mean, I admire you, bro, man. Like you're a star, bro. Like I said, like just doing those different things, bro, and connecting people and helping people break out their shell.
Yeah.
And that, like, just bringing people together to be able to just feel encouraged has such a big like influence. And especially like for me, like I said, like you said, and nobody wants to feel like the person that doesn't have friends or whatever. And I have different friends that have different things, different backgrounds, especially as a Black man, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like I talk to some friends that feel like they feel lonely, and they feel like they don't want to express how they feel about certain things.
Yes.
You're not in this alone. And like I said, we all as a people, everybody, Black, white, Asian, whatever you look like, all come together to be one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To bring people in to feel comfortable, right? To feel like they belong. And I love what you're doing and what you created with the video gaming group.
Yeah.
Church. That's beautiful, my brother. Like that's amazing.
Bro. But no, bro, I appreciate it, man. And honestly, this podcast has been great, bro. I love that. I'm so glad that I have you on. And I guess before we end the podcast, I have a few more questions. What is next for SimpMe? Where do you see SimpMe 5-10 years from now? Like, what do you hope to envision, or what's the ultimate goal, or is there an ultimate goal?
So for SimpMe, man, my goal is that it will be disseminated across all different platforms within people's households in different ways, right? I'm a tech individual. I love tech. I've worked in tech companies, and I've worked in finance. We're going to grow our mentorship business and continue to do well and pour into people through that, growing the team to have more individuals that are well-respected professionals to be able to pour into individuals that want to be financially fit and empowered. We're going to be coming out with different tech-enabled solutions to allow this information and financial literacy to be more disseminated broadly across everywhere through tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
And strategic partnerships with large organizations that allow this software and what we're creating to be beneficial and used and leveraged to the people that need it most. Mm-hmm. That's where I want to go. And that's my goal, is to build it up to be legitimately a comprehensive learning platform that redefines education by making complex simple. That's why I started it. That's what I've been saying since I was 19 years old when I started it out. 30 years old. So the mission is still the same, man. Brick by brick, be one better. That's what we're on right now.
Bro, yeah, y'all heard it, bro. We're out here to making finance simple, and I love it. I think it's a simple message, but it's a much needed endeavor. And before we end this podcast, bro, if people want to learn a lot more about SimpMe or be a part of the community, or maybe just personally reach out to you, how can people do that?
Yeah, so if anybody wants to check out SimpMe, they can check us out at www.simpme.com. You can follow SimpMe on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. My name is Jordan Perry. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's usually where I'm extremely active as well. You can add me, reach out to me. Happy to connect, shoot me a message. And just stay tuned. We have a lot of great things in the works. So super excited for the future. Got a great team. Can't do it without them. And of course, the man upstairs, God, I'm blessed. So
yeah.
Thanks for having me, my brother.
Bro, thank you for coming on, and I really appreciate this conversation. As always, every time we talk, it's very inspiring, and it always makes me think, how can I be a better man? How can I be a better person? And ultimately, how can I be a better servant for others?
Yes,
That's the thing I love about talking about you. A lot of your focus is on, what can I do for other people? And you are aligned for that, and you always have me thinking about that, and I appreciate you for that energy, And before I end this podcast, I want to end it with a quote that I love. That I think you will love. It says, "People who achieve great things that the world will never forget start out by accomplishing small things that the world will never see." I don't know, I just love that quote. So, yeah, man. And so, man, have a great today, bro. And hope we'll talk some more, bro.
Likewise, I keep doing what you're doing, my brother. I love what you're doing with this podcast, man. Everybody follow Ike's podcast. Everybody share it. Let's run it up.